Lando Norris seems a bit lost. With everything that's going on in McLaren, is staying there the best option for the young British driver? Now, with the recent departure of Andreas Seidel to Sauber and Red Bull showing continued interest in Lando, is Norris making the best decision by staying in Papaya? Now, Lando stated in an interview that he's been in talks with Red Bull, but why wouldn't he have taken up the offer to be in a championship-winning car? I mean, surely every single F1 driver's dream is to be in that position, and yet here he is, stuck in a car that seems to be moving backwards, going from being one of the slowest cars in Bahrain to getting a podium in Imola, and then losing out to Alpine in the Constructors, moving down to 5th from when they finished P3 in 2020. So it's not looking great for McLaren, and yet this driver with so much potential is stuck in a mediocre team. Now, Lando stated in an interview that he's been in talks with Red Bull. To me, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, obviously, there is one reason why he maybe wouldn't want to move to Red Bull, and that's of course because of Mr. Verstappen. Now, obviously, if Lando moved to Red Bull, he'd have to play second fiddle to Max, and I'm sure Lando wouldn't like that. All racing drivers want to be number one, most of the time. But with Max being there until 2028, I don't think many people who have the actual potential to win championships will go anywhere near Red Bull for a long while. I mean, look at Perez. He's a great driver, but I don't think he'll ever win a championship, and I think that he knew that. He went from being the top dog at Racing Point to a glorified helper to Max Verstappen. As for Lando, I think he knows he has the ability to win races and even win championships. He's shown that he can consistently beat out others in a mediocre car, and can even grab podiums when no one else in a similar car can. He even beat out Daniel Ricciardo, who some a couple years ago regarded as one of the best drivers on the current F1 grid. He knows that he's a big fish in a small pond, and I think he'd much rather have that than vice versa. So it makes sense that he'd just see it out with McLaren as the team leader, and I'm sure he just hopes that they can fight at the front, and when they do that, he'll be leading the charge of them for the championship. But what if that doesn't happen? What does he do then? Well, what if there's something else? What about Audi? You see, Seidel is obviously moving to Sauber in preparation for the Audi project. Since he has ties with VW from his days at Porsche, Seidel has essentially taken Zak Brown's job but at Sauber, and obviously eventually Audi. And his first but of course simple, to employ a team principal. Now, some are debating whether he'll put himself here, but I think he might choose someone else. Who that could be, I don't know. Now, Audi seems to be remarking and saying that by the time they join in 2026, they'll be fighting at the front of the field. Now, with the momentum that they have, they could be doing pretty well in the next couple of years. Obviously, in 2021, they finished P9 and were pretty damn slow, and in 2022 they moved up to P6. This shows they're on the up. Obviously, the start of the season was a lot better for them than the tail end, but either way it shows that they are progressing slightly. Not to mention the amount of retirements and reliability they had with Ferrari. So hopefully Ferrari will fix that, and then they can be even better. But even if they don't, Audi will bring their own engines, and maybe they'll bring them in a few years early, who knows. And then there's Valtteri Bottas, who seems to be doing a great job leading the team. Then we have Zhou Guanyu, who had a pretty good rookie season. But how does Lando fit into this whole equation? Well, in my opinion, I don't really see Zhou lasting an awful long time. I mean, he's doing well, but he's not really blowing anyone away. The likes of Théo Pourchaire, who is in the driver academy, arguably have more potential. Again, like I've said before, he needs to win the championship in F2 to get that F1 seat, in my opinion. As for Valtteri Bottas, I also don't see him sticking around for that long. I think he'll be there for a couple more years, but by the time Audi kicks in, I don't think he'll be there or be in Formula 1 for that matter. I think he'll be long gone. He is a good driver, but I don't think he's a championship caliber driver that will see it through with his age. The likes of Kimi Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton, or Fernando Alonso. They're old, but they're also really good. They've won championships, whereas Bottas just had a very good car. And if Andreas can persuade Lando, I think it could be an incredible move. At this rate, McLaren's future seems a bit up in the air. But with Audi there, there's hope for Lando. I think if he moved there, it'd end up being a bit like Lewis Hamilton's move to Mercedes in 2013. I could really see him paying off. And yet there's a part of me which thinks he could turn into another Daniel Ricciardo. A decent driver that everyone rates highly, who ends up having to move from team to team to try and find the car which can get him a championship. I think Lando might be seeing this and thinking he can stick it out with McLaren. But at this rate, it just doesn't seem like they can deliver. And on the other hand, I've mentioned before, was Lewis Hamilton. He's probably got about 2 to 3 years in him, in my opinion. I know some people might disagree, but I think it's about 2 to 3 years. So I'm sure Mercedes would love to snatch him up, but like I've said in previous videos, they probably don't want another Hamilton-Rosberg incident. So if Russell's there and Lando, I don't know if that would work. So for me, I think Audi is the way to go. And who knows, maybe they'll bring back Mick Schumacher for Audi. German driver, German team, it might all make sense.